Making 100K feels great, but that alone won't make you rich. In fact, most six-figure earners don't know how to manage their money well. So today, I'll be breaking down the 100K blueprint, showing you what's stopping you from building wealth and how you can fix it. And by the end of this video, you'll have a simple plan to turn your high salary into lasting wealth. Now, before we get into it, take 2 seconds, hit like and subscribe. It really helps push this video out to more people, but let's go. So before we get into how you actually build wealth and live the life of your dreams, we need to address the 4 sticking points that most people don't even know they're making. Starting with number 1, the main problem I see with making a high income is temptation. Now, let me explain. Most of us start our careers earning only a little bit of money, and so we can't afford all of the fun things that we want to buy, like a fancy dinner at a steakhouse or the ability to buy things without even looking at the price. But as we begin to make more at our jobs, we think that we can reward ourselves with all these things because we see more money hitting our bank account. But here's the issue. These seemingly small luxuries are actually costing us more than we realize. And this is because small purchases add up over time. And if you don't believe me, just look at how much you've spent on Amazon over the past 12 months. I recently did this and I found out we spent almost $5,000 on Amazon over the past year. When shipping is free, when you get to press one button and buy instantly, when stuff comes the very next day, buying anything online basically becomes a nothing burger of an event. And I'm not saying you're a bad person for buying things on Amazon. That's just a simple example to show you that even if you make a high salary, your finances can be held back by little things that you're not even thinking about. Which brings me to point number 2, and it's 100K isn't really that much. I know it sounds crazy because when you make $50,000, for example, 100K seems like a dream come true and you feel like you're gonna be flooded with cash. But reality is quite different. You see, when you make more, you get taxed more. And when you make more, a greater percentage goes to things like benefits and social security. And by the time the money hits your bank account, it doesn't even feel like a huge raise. I've experienced this myself, going from a minimum wage job to 50K a year all the way up to 150K a year. And every time there's jumps in my salary and it hits my checking account, it pretty much feels the same. I mean, think about it. A $10,000 raise for the year is less than $1,000 a month, which is less than $500 per paycheck. And that's getting taxed and taken out of benefits and put into 401ks. So by the time you even see it, it's probably like an extra $250 or $300. Really not as much as you think. And so that's another reason why people who are earning 6 figures for the first time don't feel as rich as it sounds on paper. That kind of salary only makes you wealthy when you know what to do with it. Which brings me to the third problem, and that's not being intentional with the money that you're making now. When you lack a clear vision for your income, it's far too easy to fall into the trap of being passive with your finances and just letting life happen to you rather than taking the reins and carving your own path. And I promise you, if you're not paying attention to your money, it will leave you for somebody else who is paying attention to it. And this often takes shape in the form of overpriced cars, stuff on Amazon like we talked about, or even, convenience food apps that cost pretty much double the price. I even had a conversation with my wife about this recently, who's not into investing in personal finance like I am. And I asked her what she would do with her money if I wasn't around. And she basically said that she would just save a little bit and then spend the rest. And it's not because she doesn't care about her future. It's really just because nobody taught her what to do with it. In other words, nobody taught her basic financial literacy. And according to the study for the Trans-American Center for Retirement Studies, she's not the only one. I mean, 50% of people in America only have $8,000 saved up. I mean, I remember just a few years ago where we got a random hospital bill for $30,000. And if we only had $8,000 saved, like the median American, we would have been screwed. Another survey discovered that 43%, nearly half of Americans, don't even know what a 401k is. And of the people who do have 401ks, almost 40% admit to not understanding what they're invested in and the fees associated with it. And in my opinion, that's kind of scary because these are pretty simple things. I know they can feel overwhelming at first, but they're pretty simple things that I think everybody should at least have some understanding of if they want to really control their finances in a much better place than they're at right now. And oftentimes workplace retirement funds like 401ks, for example, are typically some type of default or automated investment for you. So if it wasn't a default option, I think even less people would be invested in the market and just keep spending that money. And the fact that millions of Americans live this way tells me that there's something wrong with the system, and typically we look to schools for that. And so I think we can all agree that it's kind of a shame that none of us were taught this stuff growing up, at least not in any optimal way. And again, I'm referring to just basic financial information like understanding compound interest, taxes, and inflation. If you can grasp just those concepts alone, you're going to be ahead of 90% of people. And if you're anything like me, you were taught from your parents that working hard and saving your money is pretty much all you need to do. And that's a great start, but it won't cut it for an overall financial strategy. It's not going to get you to millionaire status. It's not going to get you to retire early, and it's not going to get you to the life of your dreams. I mean, At best, you're going to work till you're 70, and then maybe if you save up that whole time, you have a few years left of savings before inflation destroys all your buying power. But regardless of how we got here, what's more important is what we do with it now. So how do we break this cycle of poor financial literacy? We need to develop a plan for our money, or a blueprint, if you will. Now, a blueprint is vital for building a house because it carefully plans and crafts out every detail of the house before you ever start building. Otherwise, you'd have a huge mess on your hands. And our finances are no different. We need to carefully and thoughtfully plan out our financial blueprint so that we don't build our lives on a terrible foundation. And if you've already started building, don't worry, you're not too late. Plus, if you're watching this and you make over $100,000, you are in an incredible spot to turn things around very quickly. All right, let's dive into the 100K blueprint and look at the 5 steps that you need to take. So the first thing you need to do is understand all of your finances in your current state. And I'm talking about your paycheck, your savings, your direct deposit, your retirement accounts, really anything related to your money. Let's get a good, clear picture of. Now, it's a little harder to do this today because none of us are handling physical cash. Everything's done online. And so I created a Google Sheets budget tracker to help you get started. Now, the reason we want to get a clear, full picture of our finances is because it's impossible to know where you're going if you do not know where you're at right now. If you're unsure how much money you're getting paid every check, how much money is going to savings, how much is being taxed, going to retirement, then the next 4 steps aren't going to make any sense. So make sure you write down or type out all of your income, all of your bills, and your taxes so that you have a solid starting point. Next, you want to create an ideal outcome for your life, or basically your dream life. Now, this is a little bit on the philosophical side, but honestly, it's the most crucial part of the entire blueprint. Because again, if you don't know where you're going, or more importantly, why you're going there, you're going to get stuck, lost, and burnt out along the way. And since step 1 showed you where you are, now is a good time to brainstorm where you want to go. So ask yourself some of these questions here and take the time to be brutally honest with yourself. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid of what comes out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to write it down. And again, because this is your dream life, it's going to act as your North Star week in and week out as you're working, saving, investing, paying down debt. Without this, you're going to feel lost, confused, and frustrated on why you started this transformation in the first place. So make sure you get this step right before we move on to step 3, which is to develop a plan on how you're going to get there. The first piece of this is to budget. Now, I'm a firm believer in budgeting apps to do this for you automatically, but only once you've done it manually so you know exactly what your purchasing habits are. Otherwise, it's way too easy to overlook charges that are taking money from you. In fact, I just ran into this the other day where I manually budgeted for the past 6 months and I found some random meme app that was charging me $9 every single month, even though I never fully downloaded or signed up for the thing. And I never would have caught that if I just continued to let my app automate my budgeting for this specific reason. So you could write down all your expenses on a piece of paper. You could do it in Excel. It really doesn't matter how you get it done. Just get a clear picture of how you're spending money and what categories are spending the most on. And then you can organize that list to see what categories you want to cut back on so that you can take that money and move it towards the life that you actually want to live. But before we put that money to good use in investments, we need to understand your risk tolerance. Now, this is investing 101. This is pretty much a good place for everybody to start. And in the finance world, it's called a risk profile. Now, this is going to be your guide on how to invest moving forward. And a good analogy for a risk profile is this. Asking for the best investment without understanding your risk profile is like going to the doctor and asking for the best medicine when you don't even know what you're sick with. So do yourself a favor, go online, find some risk profile tests for free. I know Vanguard and Schwab have some decent ones. Start there so you can get a good baseline on understanding how you would react in certain scenarios and really what the best choices that you can make as an investor are. For example, my risk profile for pretty much every test I've taken is at maximum risk. Now, that's maximum risk in the more traditional sense. That doesn't mean I'm going to go put all my life savings into something like Fartcoin, but it means that pretty much all of my money is going to be invested in the stock market and most likely ETFs versus something considered secure like a savings account, which I have a whole argument for why a savings account alone is riskier than investing, but that's for another time. So anyway, take that test so you know where you're at, where you want to go, how you want to get there, and the risk you're willing to take to do it. Then we can move on to step 5, which is to automate this entire process. Far and above, this is my favorite part of the entire 100K blueprint because as a data analyst, I spend most of my day thinking about how I can automate manual repeated tasks so that I don't have to spend time doing them. And I brought that idea over to the world of finance because most of our investment decisions pretty much need to be made every once in a while and then just put on repeat. The last thing we want to do is add manual intervention and sabotage ourselves because we get emotional or we forget to invest in the first place, and that just brings a ton of mistakes. When you automate everything, it takes away those errors and it leaves you with a system designed to work for you. So the first thing that you want to do is set up direct deposit at your job into multiple buckets. So one portion goes to your retirement, ideally in a 401k. One portion goes straight into a savings account, and then whatever remains just goes to your checking. Next, you'll check your 401k to make sure that your money automatically gets invested into a mutual fund or ETF with low fees. and make sure that it fits your risk profile that you learned about earlier. Then you're going to log into the websites for all of your monthly bills, like your mortgage and rent, your utilities, your credit card subscriptions, pretty much anything that you pay every single month. You want to set up as a recurring payment that pulls straight from your checking account. And by the way, you can do this with your credit card instead of your checking account if you really want to get rewards points, but I generally wouldn't recommend it. And after all that, all that's left is money sitting in your checking account for things you can buy here and there, or expenses that fluctuate week to week, like groceries, for example. This way you get to buy back your time while also buying investments, saving for a rainy day, or preparing for your kids' college, which ultimately brings you a more fulfilling life in general. You'll be far happier and at peace every day knowing that you set yourself up for success and it's all on autopilot. And more importantly than anything I've said today is that soon you'll get to brag to your friends that you're a millionaire. All right, I know I just threw a lot of stuff at you, so if you're still unsure about how to do this, or if you want a personalized plan to build your own wealth system, hit the link in the description below to book a call with me and I will be happy to help you out. Otherwise, check out this video next to see the optimal order for investing your money. Peace.